Hello, everybody. All right, there is already, let me see who is here. We have two viewers. That's amazing. All right, hello. How is everybody doing tonight? It's Monday, and that means that we're going to be streaming, for a bit, like an hour, and we're going to be discussing this new black magic out of Unreal Engine that is, oh my God, I'm hearing myself through my phone. That is good. That is Megalights, and see what is all that about. So, I have the chat here. So if you have questions as I'm, discovering this magnificent new feature of Unreal Engine 5.5. And all right, so let's get cracking. All right, so the nice thing is that I will be presenting these today with, ironically, the first content or scene that Unreal Engine created for ray tracing. And it was this one. It was the Archviz, and you're not going to find it. Let me turn this on. You're not going to find it in the library. Well, it is there, but it is actually an actual sample from Epic. So if you come here and you go down just a tad, you're going to find it here, all right? So if you want to test it here, like this is like the best one that I have found out, because we actually have all these reference, right, on how these would look with full ray tracing on, right? We have lost a bit of these. For example, kind of these reflections now are the actual Lumen hardware ray trace reflections, all right? So we lost that ray trace vanilla, on Unreal Engine. Now it's absorbed by Lumen, but it should look something like that, all right? So let's take a look and see what it is. So, right now it's already on, and out of the bat, if I play this, you're gonna notice a bunch of things that are inherent of the actual Megalights, all right? For all of you who doesn't know, Megalight is a new shadow method. That is all that it is, all right? Somehow it's a little bit misleading because it can work. What exactly is it? It's not defined anywhere. It's just that it's a new way of providing shadows for your scenes. And it works in both ray tracing and virtual shadow maps. For some reason, it works on both. And of course, the best results, you're going to get them on ray tracing, because why accelerate shadow maps, right? If they inherently will have issues with the shape of the light, on how soft we can actually make them. So it makes a lot of sense of actually using it for ray tracing instead of virtual shadow maps, all right? So let's take a look at how to actually turn it on and make sure that everything is running, and how fast can we expect this thing to be. I want you to notice one thing. When we change from one of these to the next, one of these shots to the next, you're gonna see that as soon as it starts, it's a little bit, you saw that? When these board right here, it's showing the wall, you're gonna find that it does have a little bit of ghosting. And that is not only the new the temporal super resolution. I think that is Megalights. So what I would say is that Megalights, it's like the virtual shadow maps approach to ray tracing, right? It's like cheaping out how ray tracing works. So I would say, and not only me, you're gonna find out that if we go to Edit and Project Settings, and we go to Rendering, again, this scene was open in 5.5, so preview. So if we go to Rendering and we go all the way down until we find Lumen, right? This is all the changes that I did, because again, this thing is awfully old. Like the actual version that you're gonna find it for is for 4.27. So you need to actually open it and let Unreal convert it from 4.27 to 5.5. And everything comes perfect, so no issues there. But everything in the settings is going to be like very, very old, right? So, and things are going to get even disconnected. It's going to come like none in the global illumination because that was originally Raytrace. And Raytrace is no longer here, right? So it's going to appear like this. So you are going to have to actually turn on Lumen and Lumen for the reflections and all that, right? As you see, there is no more Raytrace reflections. So now Raytrace reflections are Lumen if you turn on use hardware ray tracing when available, right? So this is actual ray trace that were eaten up by Lumen, right? So Lumen is like taking control of everything that used to be ray tracing. The only thing that has not, actually take care was ray trace shadows. So ray trace shadows are still a thing in the engine. And so for now, I'm going to turn off MEGALIGHTs, right? And I'm going to also turn off ray trace shadows so you can see what I'm talking about, right? So this is, and again, the actual shadow map method. It is not shadow maps. It is virtual shadow maps. In fact, you know what? Let's go and actually check shadow maps and see how they look and why we're not using it anymore. So this is the thing with shadow maps. If we jump out of our camera and we get, somewhere in our scene, you're gonna see that shadow maps actually offered soft shadows. It was not like all sharp shadows everywhere. The big thing with them is that they didn't change how diffuse they were depending on the actual context. So that would create like these horrible contacts, right? Because instead of being like really sharp at the contact and then starting to blur out and soften at the distance, it's going to be the same all around, right? So that was one of the big deals why they were not so popular, right? At least not for people that already knew about ray tracing and all that. So for a time we had ray trace shadows, and you can see the exact difference that we get there. And it's amazing, coming from something that used to look like this, right, to something that looks like this. And this was, I can't remember when actual ray tracing was on. I think if these here it is, in December of 2019. And if this thing goes from 4.24 to 4.27, I'm guessing it was in 4.24, all right? So by this engine version, we have this ability. And this was magnificent. Now, it was not what you see here. It was very noisy, and you have to, actually control how many samples you were firing from, your lights and everything. But, it was not there yet for actual real time, but it was at least good enough for offline rendering, all right? Give me just a second. All right, so, and this was good. Now, when Unreal Engine 5 came, we have this new method that was virtual shadow maps, right? And that means that we could turn off our ray trace shadows. And you can see that there was a bit of a quality lost. And not only that, but the actual softness that you can actually assign to it. If you're working with ray trace shadows and you want very soft shadows, all you need to do is fire more samples until the things stop, being like if you kick an ant, nest, right? Like all that noise over there. So, but in the case of virtual shadow maps, they started like not only started, there are still like a very close dark box where we can have access to some of the stuff that we can actually change only through console commands. But so if you actually go and search those console commands on the documentation for virtual shadow maps And let me just tell you that the documentation for virtual shadow maps is mwah, it's perfect. Like it has everything. It is long enough and explain everything like very well. But still, if you go through it and you see, if you have this issue, all you need to do is go and type this command and set this value. So if you try to do that, you're going to see that the actual values that are already there in Unreal Engine are like the maximum. So chances are that what you see as what virtual shadow maps have to offer is what they have to offer. Like you can make them run faster, but not better. All right. So that's a big deal. So you can see that, yeah, they were not that hideous. They were, really good. You're paying a price out of this. Not only a price, but they were not that good for things like area lights. And if you actually check how this actual scene was light up, it is, area lights everywhere. There is like a few point lights and a directional light that comes in from this window. And that's it. That's the whole thing inside here. The other thing to actually consider is the actual cost, right? So we're running, for all of you who may see this like a little bit too small, I'm going to hit Control-Shift-H, and that should bring us the actual FPS here. So right now, I'm running 22 FPS with virtual shadow maps, right? So again, for them to be the actual solution to ray tracing, there were not that. As a synthesis of what I want to actually convey is that Unreal Engine 5 has like 4 pillars. One is Nanite, of course. The other one is Lumen. The other one is temporal super resolution. And the last one, and this was the only one who didn't bring to the table something that worked better than what we used to have. Neither in the, directional, normal, non-ray tracing type of shadows, because, we had like, at least for example, the directional light, we have like 3 separate types of shadowing: cascade, distant fields, and far distant fields, right? So that was amazing. And, they worked really good and they were fast. And I mean blindly fast, right? They were like completely opposite of ray tracing, where you need to actually pay the price and your FPS are going to crash. But because you want to use those only for rendering, that was also really cool, right? But then we got stuck with virtual shadow maps, and they look much, much better. There are like a more refined distance field shadow. In fact, that's exactly what they are. But the thing is that they are not that cheap. They are really expensive. And for area lights, they are the worst. They are so much worse that, let me just switch these to normal shadow maps. So we're running right now with normal shadow maps, 20 some FPS. With virtual shadow maps, we're now running 23. So it's like we're paying the same price for something that looks much, much better. So up to this point, it's not that bad. We're paying, the same price. Everything else, about Unreal Engine 5 was much better, right? Just virtual shadow maps were not up to the expectations of many, at least in the M&E, right? In media and entertainment. So again, what would happen if I turn on Raytrace Shadow? I'm running 22, looking this way. Let me turn it on. Look at that. I'm running 26. So that means that even Raytrace shadows were running faster than virtual shadow maps. And that's a pity. Let me just review a little bit of what virtual shadow maps should do, right? And this is, the actual concept. And it's easily explained if you go to Lit up here and you turn on a few of these visualization modes. So the first one is the clip map mid level, right? And this one might not make too much sense in there, but just take a look at this. Remember cascade shadows? Well, this is exactly what that is. Cascade shadow maps were concentric circles of the same resolution of a big map, right? That is going to be holding the actual shadow texturing, right? Because there are maps either way. they're going to be actual texture projected in, into your scene. But each and every one of these now has 16K, a 16K map, shadow map, right? But the great thing is that if you come really close, you're going to be creating more and more of those. And this one that has 16K resolution is really near the camera and will give you like very tight context. And it looks amazing, right? And then that one that is over there also have 16K, but it's further from the camera. But it needs to cover a broader area. So it's like lowering the resolution in a sense. And that will keep going, to the end of your scene. Because again, if you're working with, and this have to do a lot on, give me just a second. All right, so, and that is that they work best if everything in your scene is nanite. And that is a big deal, right? Because that makes comparing ray trace shadows with virtual shadow maps a little bit difficult, because ray trace won't work with nanite and virtual shadow maps will work best with nanite. That's, a big deal. But let's keep on talking about why this thing should be much, much better, much, much faster. So we have these, right? But on top of these, we have the virtual page. So not only you will have like several distances with different resolution of your big 16K shadow map, but you will page it. You will page it in these squares, and these squares, each is going to hold something about 128 pixels, right? And if you get near, you're going to create more of those, and if you get more, nearer and nearer, you create more and more of those. So again, it's like endless, resolution. At a distance, you're going to have bigger, pages. So that means that those are loading like less and less, lesser versions of your virtual shadow map, right? And not only that, what you don't see, you don't load. That means that you're only loading the pages that, are in front of the full frame of the camera or the viewport, but not the ones that are behind. So that is saving tons and tons of. That's why you can actually load that many 16K maps, because you're really not loading them completely or not, in the highest resolution at all. And the last one, and it's the one that really, I think, didn't work as it should, is the actual cache page. What these, all right, cache page, are you here? All right, so here is a bit of a mess. And that may be, you know what? There might be tons of stuff here that is actually invalidating the cache. And that's why it may be a little slow. So maybe if we fix that, we might get a much better result, but at a cost. So this is what would happen. If everything in your scene is static, then you're going to be able to cache it. And once it's cached, it shouldn't be redrawing the shadow at every frame. So it's going to be using an actual cache, right? In memory, it's going to be, a representation of those pages that are cached, and you're going to read them, right? Just read them. You still need to read them, but it's a lot easier than actually calculate them, right? And then read them. In this case, we might not have like the best result for virtual shadow maps, because like every page is being invalidated. Not completely invalidated. This is the actual color that it gets when there is something movable, or there is something that it's invalidated. So let me see if I can actually fix this, so we can get a better look at this. So I'm going to actually select all my static mesh actors. In fact, I can go like this and then go select, and then go select all static mesh actors. Now everything is selected. And if I go here and search for cache, here it is, shadow cache invalidation behavior. This is not what you should do, but I want to give virtual shadow map the best advantage, right? So I'm going to set these to be rigid. And nothing changed, static. nothing is changing. That's weird. So again, another thing that may invalidate the pages might be translucent materials and stuff like that. So maybe one of those is the thing that is actually creating this issue. So that being said, you can see that given the circumstances, you may have like something a little bit faster, but just a little bit faster than a ray trace shadow, which is on its own saying that you're running a bit faster than the slowest way of creating a shadow in the world of 3D rendering. So, all right, that's that. And I think that the big issue was the actual cache page. So if those work a little bit better and were a little bit more automatic, initially they have this way of saying by distance, so only invalidate things that are really near, you know, the actual point of view, and things that are at a distance, you can actually, you know, obviate and always cache those, no matter if you have like a shadow from a moving branch or something like that. But nowadays, it's not like that. Like, you need to actually go and manage everything. That being said, we're here to actually discuss megalights. And the thing is, who is going to kill megalight? It's going to kill ray trace shadows, or it's going to kill all shadows, right? It's going to become the one shadow to rule them all. And that is because how fast that thing runs. Let me just show you. Did I close it? Oh, I did. All right, let me go back. Here it is. And let me go down until rendering. Here we are. All the way down until lumen. All right. So here we are. We're working right now with virtual shadow maps. So if we turn on ray trace shadows, this is how it looks. And let me show you another thing. No matter what sort of shadow you're using right now, it could be virtual shadow maps, it could be shadow maps. If you turn megalights, by default, it's going to turn your shadows to ray trace and then apply megalights, right? Let me just prove that point. So now megalight is on. Now the magic just happened, and now I have 33 FPS. I was working with 22. So it's like, and I think this is very scalable with your scene. So, you know, so that would mean that depending on the actual number of light that are producing shadows, you're going to get a better and better yield out of megalight. So let's say that you have 100 lights and you're running 11 FPS. With megalights, you're going to get like much more, right? At least than what the actual yield that I'm having here. But I'm completely happy. You know, 34 FPS from, let's compare. Shadow maps is 20. Virtual shadow maps is 24. Ray trace shadows is 27. And megalights is 36. It's magic. It simply is magic. And let me just show you the actual quality, at least while you're keeping still, right? This is ray trace shadows. You can see the actual quality of it. And if you turn on megalights, it's the exact same. So what that tells me is that megalights right now, it's running on ray trace. So it's picking up ray tracing and making it easy. And this, it's really where the actual big questions come. And that is, why not then simply rebrand ray tracing and set it as megalight and be gone with, as we have seen in the past, we don't have, you know, any other way of creating global illumination but lumen, and forget about, you know, screen space. Same with the reflection method, right? Forget about screen space. Why still keep ray trace? Right. One answer would be because ray trace, megalight are still in experimental. That might be the actual reason, but there might be another reason behind that. And that is that there should be something going on here, right? To actually produce this result, right? And I don't know if you can actually see it, but watch at this side of the screen, right? So if I do this, you can see how I have that magic dust coming all around following my screen. I think MEGALIGHT takes a leaf out of virtual shadow maps and start caching the actual ray trace. And it's also doing it in screen space. And I think that that is the big scene out of MEGALIGHTs. And that's why they might be keeping actual ray tracing. Let's see if we actually have that, if we go back to ray trace. So I'm going to turn on ray trace. No, that's not the one. Oh, here it is. It's already on. So I'm going to turn off MEGALIGHTs, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. You can see that there is no magic dust, creeping on this side of the screen. So that might be the actual deal happening here. And that's why we still have this button. That is the only thing that is saving this button from being gone forever. But at the same time, let me show you one last thing. This is also a thing to actually, if you have time, read out all these, because it will give you a lot of hindsight of what each of these shadow methods should be used for each thing. So you can see that all right, it says that it provides a high quality shadow for next gen projects, next gen consoles, with a simplified setup. So it's a black box that should run in software with no needs of actually having any sort of RTX NVIDIA, or I don't know what's it's ray tracing, right? For Radeon and NVIDIA. And that is what is that all about. So we can think of these still being here because it provides the actual software solution, right? And that would be, right, actual virtual shadow maps is going to be like running Lumen without using hardware ray tracing. And that way, right now, if you're running virtual shadow maps and Lumen without the hardware ray tracing, now I'm not using my video card to render these. It's just software, right? Now, for any other platform that does have an actual capable ray tracing hardware, well, you turn this on. For all not for Lumen, Lumen keeps being fully software. This is just for actual reflections, right? And those were the actual hideous thing that we were getting with Lumen reflections. That we were really reflecting the Lumen scene, which is not very good. But now with these, and now again, Lumen is working much, much better with these kind of reflections. So there are actually hitting like very fast, and they simply look amazing. If you see this reflection here, it's perfect, right? Same as, inside here, we get all those pretty reflections, and this is no longer ray trace. This is the ray trace applications inside Lumen, all right? Now, lastly, if you turn everything on, right, you can see that MEGALIGHT is what is running and everything looks ray trace. But if you go and search for your post processing, oh, I need to turn off my filter. Post processing volume, right? And if I search for MEGALIGHTs, I think I should actually go there. There are the rendering features. I should be there soon. Pad, night. All right. Is this the one? Rendering features. Here it is. So you can see that you can turn on MEGALIGHTs, right? From here. But apart from this one, there should be... Where is it? There is a way. Where was that? All right, somewhere I know that there is an actual way. I can't remember where is it now, but there is an actual way of turning on MEGALIGHTs not for ray tracing, but for virtual shadow maps, right? And it does accelerate virtual shadow maps as well. Not only ray tracing, but by default, what it accelerates is ray tracing. So I really think that if they actually can get rid of the actual, magic dust that happens on the wall because of the screen space, like that thing on the right, ray tracing is out of the window and will never come back into Unreal Engine. And there is not going to be anything else inside Unreal Engine that is going to be called ray tracing. Not anymore. At least not in vanilla, in vanilla Unreal Engine. So, NVIDIA has its own compilation of Unreal Engine that you can get that not only will bring you something that looks kind of like a MEGALIGHT. It's a cheap way of achieving like thousands of ray trace lights in your scene. But it will also bring, the normal RTX ray tracing and everything that was removed from Unreal Engine. But at least on vanilla Unreal Engine, this kind of looks like the future. We're going to end up having virtual shadow maps, and we're going to have MEGALIGHT's ray trace and MEGALIGHTs for virtual shadow map. So it's going to be like cheaping out virtual shadow maps, making even a little bit faster, but it might still get those issues. So if you can manage of, not worrying about those little bit of ghosting, then this is for you. This might not be for everybody. I have not made many renders with MEGALIGHTs on. And I know that in real time, you can actually see that effect like a lot. Like it is this, I don't know, weird thing that it's like a little bit noisy and then it denoises it and now it looks perfect. And I don't know if in render, you're going to be seeing those. I really don't know. We should test that. In fact, we can actually test it here without too much issues. But so this is what I have discovered, right? My presumption is that with the creation of MEGALIGHTs, actually they accelerated a little bit more ray trace shadows because before I was seeing not that of a fast ray trace shadows compared to virtual shadow maps, all right? So I think that they accelerated ray trace shadows, and now if you put MEGALIGHTs on top, then everything is magic and everything runs like really, really fast. So this is a bit of a organic test, right? So maybe we can create an actual inorganic test and see how that goes, right? Because again, scalability is the other thing that we need to actually test. So let's go about it. Let me actually create a new scene. Just like that. I'm not going to be saving this. And let's do one of those. Let me get rid of everything that lights up my scene, just like that. And I'm going to be creating a simple cube right there. And I'm going to be creating the hardest of all shadows. So, and again, another thing to actually mention is that I'm running cinematics. This is unheard of. I have never opened that scene with my hardware at so fast with everything cinematics. And that's another thing why it looks so clean. No, blotching, no stuffy, right? That scene with global illumination in Epic, it's a little bit blotchy and a little bit noisy. With cinematic, it's like gone. It looks amazing. That's why I want to test an actual render, right? So let's create one of the hardest lights to render, and that is a reg light. So we're going to set it there, move it back, just like that. Let's pick this up. And so, this is a thing to actually consider. And maybe we can actually test it. So right now we're watching this with MEGALIGHTs because MEGALIGHT is on, right? And everything is like that. But if you go down here, oh, I remember, it's in the actual light where you can actually set, oh, this is going to be fun, right? So if you go to your light, right, and you open up the advanced, if you go down a little bit, you're going to see that first you have the ray trace shadow, right? And this could be on or off, or you can use the actual project. So if you use the project, we know that ray trace shadow is going to be on, right? That means that if we turn on, off, allow MEGALIGHTs, This is going to be full ray trace, right? And if we change these and set it to be disabled, this is virtual shadow maps, right? So you can actually see the big deal out of virtual shadow map, at least on the area light. You get this double shadow. You don't get a nice contact. So this is like the big hit and miss of virtual shadow map. So again, this is ray trace shadows, which are best, right? And now we're going to be turning on megalights. Now, this being said, down below the actual low megalights on your light, you're going to find out the megalight shadow method, and it says default, and default is ray trace. So if you take these to be virtual shadow maps, this is accelerated virtual shadow maps. So we're going to be testing all these right now in this inorganic test, right? So what I'm going to do is grab these two, duplicate and duplicate and duplicate, just like that. Now I'm going to select everything but the floor. So I'm going to put the floor inside the lighting folder just to take it away. Now I can take all these and duplicate, move. And I think I can manage one more to this side. That is good. I don't think I can actually make another one. Oh, barely. That is good. So I am going to get rid of this one and this one. Let's go the other side. All right. So you know, as curiosity, the actual starting. Oh, and I need to actually select all these lights and change the mobility to mobile. That's good. So you know, as a curiosity, the actual floor here is 80 meters by 80 meters. I've counted before. So let me select a couple of these, and I can, you know, keep on building to the other side. So, no, that's good. And duplicate around there, duplicate and move, and duplicate and move. So as you see, I'm going to create like tons of these. Now that I have all these constructed, let's start, you know, back and forth. So again, forth and forth and forth. And now I can actually grab everything back and keep on adding more and more of these area lights. So, you know, there are being set by default to be megalights. So maybe we're completely delusional at this point, right? Creating this many lights. And I think I got to the end here. That is good. Set myself like this, and I'm going to select all of these dudes, unselect the floor, and be gone with all these. Oh, I missed some. That's good. And like that. Be gone. Now let's do this for the other half. I don't know how many of these I'm going to be creating, but I want a lot. I want to break my system. Here we go. Now it crashes. Imagine that. And duplicate, and let's move this back. At this point, virtual shadow map would be, you know, killing your machine for sure. And I think that is, yeah, we're kind of, we could feed one more, but I think this proves, you know, anybody's points, right? So again, these are tons and tons of lights, and I'm still running 44 FPS. And these are ARIA lights. These are the actual render killer. Now you can see that there is an actual issue here. So I wonder if this is because of nanite. So just because, right, I'm going to grab my original cube from Unreal, and I'm going to enable nanite on it and save. I can change that later on if needed. Yeah, save it. And I'm going to do the same with the floor, just because this is not at any point documented. Like you actually need to have ray trace, nanite everything for megalights to be better. Just because everything is nanite nowadays, I would think so. Now you can see that the actual way they change is a little bit more subtle, or about subtle. Like I can see how they change, right, at a distance. That's good. Now, what would happen if I grab all these lights, and I'm going to save this because I know what could happen. Yeah, it's a new map. Why not call it new map? And let's grab all of our lights. Again, I'm going to come here. Lights. That's good. All right. Now I have all lights here. Click. Go all the way down. Click. Oh, sorry about that. And now I'm going to go down until I find, allow megalights. Again, take the picture. I'm running 50. Let's say that is a 50, right? And I'm going to turn off megalights. The next shadowing line that I have in my settings is ray tracing. And I'm running an awful 12 to 13 FPS. All right, that is not bueno at all. Now, what would happen if I actually change these for disabling ray trace shadows? So now I fall into virtual shadow maps. I'm running 28. So you see, if everything is nanite, like actual, not only nanite, but if everything is static, and that is a big deal with virtual shadow maps, everything runs so much faster. In fact, we can actually come here and actually portray what is happening here. Lit, virtual shadow maps, catch pages, sorry. And now, maybe they changed this in this. So what I'm seeing here is that it's caching everything, and some back there are recaching themselves. But if I don't see green here, I don't know if this means, what this might mean is that I'm not really using virtual shadow maps. What I'm looking right now might be, let me just take a peek. It might be shadow maps, regular shadow maps, because they should actually show green. Rendering, and let's go down. No, it is virtual shadow maps. Just to make sure, I'm going to turn both off. Nothing gets better. So I think the actual issue might be in the actual, it might be in the actual view mode, right? That is broken with so many lights. Yeah, it's like suffering. Die. All right. So again, with everything being nanite, we're running 13. Let me select all my lights again. And I think if I select one and go select and select all rec lights, oh, maybe I need to actually select them to see. But as you can see, all the cache, all the pages are cached, right? That's why actual virtual shadow maps are working, like a charm. Now let's go back until we find. Here it is. So I'm going to turn back on use project settings, and that is going to be ray trace. Now it looks beautiful, right? Very soft shadows everywhere, but we're running 9 FPS. Now, will it be hideous? Will I see the actual change? I can actually see that change. That is horrible. The fact that it's, like catching the to a better shadow. So shadows at a distance are like off. But then I can come here and where is it? Allow megalights. Here we go. Now I'm running 42 FPS. This is like nonsense. This thing needs to stop, man. You cannot be this fast. It's still doing that thing, but again, having this many lights, it's like nonsense. Last thing that I want to test is, all right, I'm getting 30 some, 40, let's say, right? And that is using megalights, making ray trace faster. What would happen if I change these to virtual shadow maps? So this will return to be virtual shadow maps accelerated. And now I'm running 35, all right? Let's see the actual difference between, so I'm going to turn off ray trace shadows. So if I actually turn off megalights, it will be normal virtual oh, I'm still in cache. see here. So let me go back here. So right now I'm in virtual shadow maps with no megalights, and I'm running 25, and this is virtual shadow maps accelerated by megalights running at 41. So it does the same. It is like accelerating any sort of light that you're pushing, megalights way, which is amazing, right? Because that would mean that if you're running on a console that, doesn't have RTX support, and if you want to accelerate your lights, you can use megalights to actually achieve that. So all of these is great, right, in terms of what megalights offer. But megalights has even more to offer. There are a couple of things that weren't possible before, and that is to have texture area lights and animated area lights. I'm not going to be even trying to do that, but I have an actual something to show. So again, let me turn everything back, as the glory of Raytrace accelerated mega lights shadows. Everything looks great. Apart from the actual magic dust, right, that happens at the edge of the screen. Yeah, that is megalights. That, again, this thing is experimental. Who knows how fast this thing is going to come and how better is going to look the actual screen effect, right? If it's going to be a little bit better. But again, it's really magical. Last thing that I want to mention is that thing that it will cast lights and soft shadows from area lights with textures and with area lights with animated textures, right? That's a thing that we didn't have any way of doing it before megalights. I would really struggle at that because I don't have any animated playing right now, like a movie loaded and something like that. I don't want to bore you too much with that. But we can actually go back. Let me save this in because, yeah, this could be a good way to test megalights soon later. And I'm going to go back to my level. Sometimes they call it level, sometimes they call it maps. So I actually have an Lumen version of these archvies. Yeah, save everything. And this is it. This is exactly what this is. And I want to show you something. I don't know if this was before, if this was here before, or if it's because of megalights, or if it's not. But let me show you one thing. Sorry that I will need an actual macro that will take me. I will pay for that. I want a macro that will open the render settings like with one button. Because I go back to this thing like a lot. All right, so a new thing that I realized that is here is the next, ray light mode. This is not on, or this is different in 5.4, right? So you had like surface cache and heat lighting, right? That was what we had before. Now we have these heat lighting for reflections. And this, in fact, let me turn off, all my rec lights and my directional light. So, this version of the lighting, it's made by this HDRI backdrop, right? And with the normal map that comes with it, approaching storm, like everything, it's just, come in here, go into lights and drop in an HDRI backdrop. And if you don't have these, you might need to go edit plugins and search for HDRI. And you enable this plugin and you're going to have this light available here. And it was good, but now let me just show you this. So I'm going to turn off my directional light, and this is what we used to have, right? Again, reflections, the best, right? I can actually see the reflections outside the window. If you turn off heat lighting for reflections to surface cage, you lose that also. Now, what would happen if I set these to heat lighting? there you go. My machine is going to have a seizure, but look at this. I'm lighting this whole room with only the HDRI, and it's looking oh so amazing. Like this is only one HDRI outside the window, and I can actually grab it and start rotating it. And there we go. In fact, I don't know why these dials are so horrible. I can actually go and do it this way. Just like that. And you can see how the actual lighting changes inside the scene. Very soft shadows everywhere. And it looks very, very amazing. This HDRI backdrop is actually a dome with a skylight in, and it is an actual blueprint that you can actually check and see how it works. But that is the only thing that it does have. Like it, I think that what is creating this actual effect is the skylight. What if I set it not to affect the world? So it's not the skylight. So it's the actual geometry, which is, can I hide you? Like not visible? So it's the actual plane. So maybe this is what we're talking about, right? Having those planes that can actually lead up a scene. Test this in 5.4 and you're gonna realize that this is not even possible, right? So I don't know if this has to do with megalights or not. In fact, I can turn off megalights and this thing keeps working. I can turn off ray trace shadows and whatever. This is not an actual shadow coming from a light. This is the actual shadows coming from, you know, a big plane with a big HDRI with tons of lumens assigned to it. And this is what we get. Now, thing is that if you turn ray trace, megalights, whatever, this won't change. This is like a separate thing. So I'm guessing this is just lumen with something new, right? And that is the actual heat light for lighting, not just for reflection. But oh my God, if this is lumen shadows, this is amazing. And it's looking very, very nice and very, very good. Like it, on its own, it's like you're halfway there. So if we start turning on lights like the directional light, I would keep these. I would save, you know, the work of all these rec lights because, you know, I can actually turn them on, right? So you can see what they're doing. They're bringing a bit more lights in, right? Like field lights. But even with them off, like everything looks also fine. I think with a very good HDRI and one directional light, you're solved. You're going to be solving everything. Now, you're paying the price. This thing is expensive as hell. Let me just show you. This is, and again, let me fill everything up with the rec light so you can actually see the difference of it on and off and how much, you know, does it balance things out when you have all these rec lights in. You're not going to see a huge difference, but the actual spike in FPS is really noticeable, right? So I'm going to switch these to heat lighting for reflection. And yeah, we lost a little bit of something. Let me see if we can actually check it out. At this point, it's just a bit of brightness, to tell you the truth. It's just tiny amount of brightness, but the rest is like normal, right? So if you're combining it with rec lights, you might be losing a little bit of that. Again, rec lights without a texture will give like this flat effect, right? It's just a bland light coming in without any of the detail of what is outside, right? But again, if you save those and you turn back these heat lighting, now you get this rich lighting inside your interior with all the colors of everything outside. And again, this thing is a little bit screen space. Again, lumen, the first bounce is screen space, so we can actually, now we wouldn't know what is megalights or what is lumen because they are both a little bit of screen space, right? But this thing looks completely amazing. I'm really, really happy with the actual improvements from this. Start content has animated texture. All right, that is very good to know. Let's try that. All right, let's try that right here, right now. All right, let me see if everything is good. I'm just going to turn off heat lighting and see if that is what actually will make the actual lighting from area lights with, no, area lights will work. I think maybe with actual planes. Let me see if that works. All right, good. Let me close this and let's go to the engine content and let's search for textures. I don't know if it is a texture. It should be movie. Do you happen to know, Mohammed, do you happen to know the actual name that I can actually search for it? It could be a texture because actual movies will create an actual texture. So let me see if I search for textures and see if I can actually find it. That's it. There are so many of those. Which one could that be? All right, allow me to do this. Let me go to my content, right click, go to media and create one of these, media texture. All right, this is what I want. So let's go here and actually search for one of those, media texture. Here it is. Media plate. And the thing is that these are the old way of producing these. So that means that I must open the actual media player. To actually see media player. Will you open? Nope. All right, that's why I didn't want to mess with this one. I will later on like import like EXR sequence that I can actually load in, because that would be like the easiest way with the new media plate. That thing is amazing. It will read out like EXR sequencers outside of Unreal. But we don't have any. Oh, we can actually jump. It's all right. It's all right. We know that it works because we saw that wonderful demo, right? With echo and everything. Now, I want to check something. I want to check this map comes with an actual emissive texture for the blinds. So what if I drop a cone or no, a sphere, right? And put it there, and I will load the blind material. Blind. Here it is. So this one is an actual emissive surface. So if I turn everything off, just like that, this is the actual light that I get. And this is lumen, right? So I'm guessing that this is where we need more documentation with MEGALIGHT. Because, all right, this shadow, who is casting this shadow right now? So if I move these here and I can actually catch a little bit of these. So this shadow right here, is this ray trace? Is this shadow map? Like, who is driving this shadow? That's, to me, like a complete mystery. And again, I can actually turn off MEGALIGHTs and these will still work, right, without any issues. Because, again, it keeps being an actual emissive surface, right? And Lumen already produces that since Lumen is Lumen. So with that, I think we cover most of it, right? I would render something out of this and see if, we get that faint fairy issue with megalights, and that will, that will make me finish up today's turn this off, turn this on, open the level sequencer. I have these. Oh, I know what is going to be the killer here. Oh, I do have. All right, that's cool. So I can open these, and I don't want to render these all. So I'm going to select all these and turn it off. I just want to render not the first one, the second one will do best. So I would be rendering this short one, this, all right? Let me check one that I actually can see the issue, like a lot, not this one. Oh, this one it is. So this is what? It's not 100 what? 110? So it's this one. Cool, let's render this one out. And let's see if we can actually see those, right? Again, I'm gonna render it with the real-time blur and the real-time depth of field, right? So I'm not going to be overriding the samples or the temporal super resolution, but let's see how that goes, right? Let's hit render local and let's wait just a tad and let's see what happens. My guess is that it will show. If we don't add samples to this, that will show because renders with real-time technology from Real Engine are WYSIWYG. So they are exactly what you see in the preview of your viewport. But who knows? Maybe because of rendering stuff, it's going to actually like denoise it before it renders out, or maybe it won't, and we actually see those hideous, things. Again, this is experimental, right? And that is a huge deal, right? This thing being experimental and being so fast and so good. All right, so while we wait here, do we have any questions? Something that you want to actually test with Megalights, apart from the animated texture, because I don't have one at the hand. All right, just let me know if you happen one particular thing that you want to test. Say hi to someone. Maybe. All right, let's wait for this final compilation of the shaders. In fact, you know what? Let me do this, right? Just in case I'm going to do this. And what I want to do is actually jump here, all right? And there is something to read here about megalights. I don't think that I have not tested that. I don't know if there is actual documentation for megalights. There might be not, because it's experimental. But it says here that it's a new experimental feature that allows artists to add hundreds of dynamical casting shadows lights into their scenes. That is what we are experiencing, right? Artists can now lead scenes playfully without constraint or impact on performance. Well, so far, so good. With Megalight's trademark, lighting artists for the first time can use texture area lights with soft shadows. All right, that's a thing. I wouldn't think that is how it used to work, but maybe it's not. And with light functions and light functions, I can actually search for light functions, media textures, playbacks, and volumetric shadows on consoles and PCs. So this is another thing that is amazingly good. Having these casting volumetric shadows that fast, that is a thing. So it's magic. It's just magic. All right, I think the actual render finished, I think. So let's go here. And everything is black. So good. Why everything completely black? It is. Oh, I think what it is. Oh, it's this. I'm such a fool. That's why I hate the actual. I have two, a daylight and a nighttime, and don't you worry. It's just this. Let's set these to auto load or load always, and that's it. Let's re-render, and that should be fine. Warm him up. Oh my God, it looks, no, I can see it. It's a little bit less noticeable than in the actual viewport, but you can actually see it. Let me take a look at the actual render. Open that up. Oh, wait. Pause. All right, here it is. Oh no, it's everywhere. Like it's below this board, and you can actually see the noise there, and then it denoising, and you can see it at the edge of the screen. All right, so we can actually see the seams of megalights. The first, oh my God, the first, so it's temporal. We know that it's temporal, and we know that is screen space. So I think those two are the actual secrets behind megalights right now. So the first frame is completely noise, right? I would say, can we add more samples to make this better? Maybe. But you know what? If you're actually rendering out, you might not even give rat ass, because you're going to be using Raytrace as it is, at least for now. And that is the thing. So maybe Raytrace is still a thing in shadows, because if you want to produce like a very clean render out, you're going to be choosing actual Raytrace in shadows, right? So it's going to look much, much better, at least on these edges. And who cares, how much time you spend rendering out, because it's going to be fast, or, faster than most Raytrace engines out there. So I would say that this was a really eye-opener about what this technology has in stores. So again, I think that for real-time ray tracing, Megalight is going to be the king. For rendering out and offline rendering, Raytrace might still be there for a couple of versions until Megalight is, out of the oven, and it's fully baked. All right. All right. So with that, I want to say adieu, because I'm hungry and I want to have something for dinner. So hopefully I will catch you on next Monday, maybe. Maybe I'm going to move this thing to Sundays, but I want to keep on doing these things with everything new about Unreal Engine 5. I'm going to keep on playing with stuff and let you know, what is happening, and if I discover, some cool things, all right? Hope you enjoy today's stream. And with that, I want to say, take care of each other. I love you very much, and I will catch you on the next one, all right? Bye-bye, everybody. Nice seeing you.